start. Welcome to Sustainability Scores, the podcast for research analysts who wants to unlock insights from corporate sustainability data. I'm your host Vikram Shetty. Today I'm joined by Manuel to talk about sustainability and digital transformation. Manuel, welcome to the show.
Hello, and nice to see you. Thank you, Vikram, for the invitation.
You're most welcome. And for folks who are just meeting you for the first time, could you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course, and I'll try to keep it within a half an hour. So, really, my background is telecom and IT. I'm coming from the telecom world, so a lot of my activities are definitely related to data. They are related to digital transformation. I spent many years of my career in large companies such as Cisco, AMD, and about 10 years in as a CMO, Chief Marketing Officers, and PR head for Latin American Huawei, the Chinese company. So definitely I have digital and digitalization credentials. But during COVID and as a result of changing my perspective on how the world has to be, together with my co-founder and many interns today, we're looking at this connection, this bridge between technology and sustainability. So, of course, technology these days and data are intertwined, if not, one and the same.
Right, right. Thank you for that. Before I move ahead, I just want you to explain to someone who comes from a sustainability domain side, what does digital transformation mean?
Well, so first thing, there is no standard definition or a set of standards. So really, digital transformation many times is also quoted as Industry 4.0, and is the advent of a new set of technologies, cloud computing, digitalization, IoT, robotics, flying drones, and so on, packaged under the control, if you want, or the understanding of intelligence system. We call it AI, artificial intelligence. That's sort of my definition. I want to, as I go through this definition, I also want to stress the fact that the transformation is the key word, not digital. And this transformation is the key word because it's a transformation process. When I said Industry 4.0, I meant transformation from Industry 3.0, for instance. So we have to be understanding that transformation involves people, involves processes, involves management, and not last, involves the transformation of the business models. Not only the way we do business, but also the way we create new business opportunities, new value, new revenues.
Great, great. Thanks for explaining that too. Now, coming back to your current role and about AKFI, how did you co-founded it? What does AKFI do, and what is your current role in it?
Okay, so starting with the role, because it's simple, I'm the executive director and the co-founder. The role of an executive director, it's purely administrative. It's to create and to sustain, to support the organization. What the organization is, it's an industry consortium. Many times people think of industry consortiums as consultancies, but actually we are a sustainability leadership forum. Let me explain what I mean by that. A forum, it's actually it involves the participants, it involves the companies and the leaders in sustainability in that company to come up with projects, get together, address critical needs, and either the results are in standards or in best practices, So this is the format really of AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute. We are focused on, as a forum, we are focused on the problems of sustainability reporting, which relates directly with data, as well as the way the sustainability can be made an efficient process with the supply chain. And
Right.
I'll explain really quickly what it means. When you are a supplier in the supply chain, especially if you are a major supplier, you have to report on sustainability together with your customers, the people on top of the supply chain. And by the way, the supply chains should be understood as a two-sided part of the business. You are the supplier to somebody else until you reach the consumer. So that's when the suppliers do not get together with their supply chain and try to create a common framework for sustainability, we create inefficiencies, costs, problems, even conflict.
Right.
So that's what we are. We are a forum.
Interesting. We'll get deeper into it a bit in some time. Uh, so a couple of things that you mentioned. Once you mentioned transformation is being one of the core point, and also you mentioned about sustainability reporting, which also called as ESG reporting. So uh, uh, can you explain to our listener when how do you help a company to make a transformation, especially let's pick ESG reporting as a use case, and how do you help them transfer, and what does the before looks like and what does the after look like?
Sure. And actually, I want to make sure that we understand companies help themselves. We are a forum, we are a self-help forum.
Right.
Hence, and we tend to separate ourselves from consultants, which help a company at the time. McKinsey and your firms and many other firms are going to consult on one-on-one.
Right.
So we're offering really this forum for companies to address how they report accurately, what report methodology they should use in common. Again, the fact that there are many reporting standards, for instance, raises a lot of problems for the supply chain. If your Ford company asks for ISO 14001 and others are asking for other methods, you create a lot of challenges in terms of how you create data, how you store data, how you process data, how you make your data auditable. Very important, because
Okay.
audits are part of, and we'll probably get later into legislation and European Community in California and so on. But to answer the question, the simple fact that they can talk one with the other and agree on a common practice, it's a much big step ahead, because now you can build on this common practice.
Got it. Got it. And just for my understanding and clarification, I understand the forum is more like a catalyst, and because there are different companies join to your forum and they understand the standardization or overcome the challenges. So are there any particular method or practice that you perform along with those companies that makes them, and if so, what are those practices? Like, if someone needs to understand it, how would you explain that?
Excellent question in the first place. So I'll start with a little bit of history, because forums and standards bodies are considered, and they are technically very slow. 4G standard, for instance, took about 10 years. We call it LTE these days. 5G, probably about the same. So observing this process, we decided that we have to use agile. And what agile methodology gives you is rapid prototyping. By prototyping rapidly, by moving rapidly and creating quickly best practices, we know that they won't be perfect. We know that there won't be, agreement on the first iteration. But to use an agile practice in order to move forward the yardstick. There is so much to be done that if you try to make it perfect and takes you 10 years, well, the ESG is not waiting.
Yeah, got it, got it. That's very interesting. I can see how it is now connected coming from a technology space. Uh, Moving on to the legislation pass, definitely the EU has been doing some remarkable work, which is all over the news, and also the US California state has been doing some work. Would you like to show some light, throw some light on it? What is your key takeaway, or like some of the things that you are finding it interesting and that the industry needs to make account for?
So there are interesting trends happening with ESG. On one way, the term is overused, bashed by some circles, discarded, and so on. Well, the good news is still top of the news, so it's not going away. The second part of ESG, and especially from the lens, from the perspective of reporting, um, what European community is doing and what is happening also in the US on a slower and sort of more state by state speed is the principle or the question of double materiality. So simply what materiality means is companies, especially public companies, have to report on what they call it material events, things which affect the shareholders, affect the company. So a material event can be risk of floods, for instance. A material event can be work actions by union, and these are material to the finances of the company. So an investor should know what risk is taken. So materiality is reflected in actually how risk is measured and how company is insured, for instance, for risks, how investors look at the risk of their investment. So it's a key element, actually, it's probably the key element in the functioning of a public company. Private companies may not need to disclose to the same level. What's double materiality? Now it's applying the risks of ESG to the risks of the company, adding them up. So you look at environmental risks. You have to disclose what the company has in terms of environmental risks and what the company has actually to take as an action. And by the way, when companies disclose risks, doesn't mean automatically action. They may say, we have a risk, but we're doing nothing.
Right.
We're going to cope with it later on. And I think now coming to environmental risk, to ESG, that couples with a plan for middle to long term. Sometimes we call it a strategic plan. Sometimes we shy away from the name. But it's essentially the strategy.
Right.
That's how it connects. So double materiality is key to the principles of these legislations.
Got it.
And that gets you away from greenwashing, because now you have liability on accuracy of reporting, like in finance reporting. In US, I think it's Dodd-Franken Act, may punish not only financially a company, but also jail for the CEO and CFO if they misbehave, let's say.
Right. That's nice and interesting and very important progress that this legislation is bringing. Uh, my next question to you would be, what are the common myths that you have seen companies make while doing the digital transformation?
I've seen I don't know if I'll call it a myth, but a strong belief that technology is the solution. And working with vendors of technologies, I don't blame necessarily the companies, because we do a lot of effort to convince them that technology is necessary and can move the company to a more profitable, more manageable way. However, what companies do not understand and do not realize, that technologies don't act alone. Technology is, a tool.
Right.
It's a toolkit, a tool set.
It's an enabler.
And if it's an enabler, perfectly said.
Yeah.
So as an enabler, um, what do you enable? If the company doesn't ask themselves why I bring technology, why I buy cloud, why I buy automation, without understanding their own processes, how this affects their processes, their business, and totally important, the most important, how it affects their people. So I've been in too many meetings, for instance, where I see resistance from the people to technology because it's not correctly explained. There is not introduced as a strategic plan, and people are afraid of their jobs. They are unsure about the efficiency of the technology in their case. They know much more than executives know about their role and how the company works underneath the cover, if you are. So, uh, sort of long explanation, but digital transformation, it's a process where it has to start with people's transformation.
Mm.
Continuous business planning, business transformation. Why are you doing it? What do you get? Do you really want your customers to be only talking with you over a bot, for instance? Yeah, it's automation. It results in people being layoffs, but this human relation, is lost. The bot can do only so much.
Right. Right.
Personally, I seem to be in this category that after listening to 10 options from the bot, I need the 11th one.
Right. Right. I hear you. I hear you. Uh, Now, when we talk about transformation, data plays an important role. So, if someone is working with ESG data, what would be your number one advice to them?
Number one advice will be, don't call data data. And let me explain. Because data is not one thing. Actually, data is a plural in itself.
Right.
But there is not such thing as a standard ESG data. And once you start to use AI systems and you understand how artificial intelligence works, if your data is not a single data shared by the companies, then your AI will not be capable to give you measurable results comparable with other companies. Yes, it can measure for your company. So the first thing on ESG data, I think we need to, because we're going to use AI, we're going to use ChatGPT, natural languages and other methods similar to that technologically. Once we get into that, if we don't train them with the same data set, we'll never be able to interpret the results in a comparable fashion. And let's remind ourselves why we do that, because ESG reporting, it's what it's used actually, not only double materiality, but it's used in guiding the companies for the next step. It's used to guide their investors, their insurance companies, their finance, and so on. So if we don't get to a single data set to train these AI systems, we'll be in troubles. Now, let me make a footnote, because AKFI contributed to a number of public inquiries by different bodies like IOSCO. We contributed to the Singapore Authority. And we looked at how they put AI in their requirements, and it's sort of a one-liner. You should use AI. It's like, you know, you should use cutlery when you have dinner, but what goes with what, you know?
Right. Greg, I understand that. So it has to be a more systematic and a well planned approach, and not just a tick box exercise, because everyone is using and ChatGPT is only one, like it's one variation of one language model, part of AI. It has, like, it AI itself, it's so vast that you cannot
True.
use one component with one data points and call it as a
And absolutely, Vikram. Not only to add that, as you said, you use BARD with the same data set and to get different results.
right.
BARD being, as people probably know, the Google's
Right.
AI, ChatGPT, if I may
Right,
use.
right. And as we speak, I mean, there are already other companies who are bringing their data models and who are bringing their technology to the public space, because it's a competitive world. Yeah, so it doesn't have to be watched in one single lens, and I think I understand and appreciate that point of view very much. Before I ask my last question for this episode, do you want to share anything, or anything that comes to your mind or we missed in our conversation?
Um, I think the first level for people, it's awareness, and they're doing a tremendous job raising the awareness by just asking this um, apparently simple questions. What's data? What's ESG data, for instance?
Right.
So that's a first step. I would like to add the fact, and we have in AKFI, we have over 20 interns. We have about 80 supporting people that come to our actionable ESG to discuss different parts. It's a very complex, it's probably the most complex human enterprise we take when you look at sustainability, because it involves anything from the way we interact with nature, with humans, to the actually core structure of enterprises, and social enterprises as a social component, right? It's a big component of our society. So what I would like to really encourage people to think is, we are at the point where we cannot act as a single discipline. Sustainability is not one, or ESG is not one. It's not even multidisciplinary, in the sense that if we put people of different disciplines around the table, and we talk about the agile process a little bit earlier, they have to reach what's called transdisciplinary. They have to understand, and that's a message to especially young generation, to universities, to schools. We have to look across disciplines in order to even understand the complexity of the problem we're trying to solve. And then, as humans, will come up with solutions, maybe with a little bit help from ChatGPT or alike.
Right. That's a good message to the listener out there. And my last question is, if any company wants to be a part of your forum, what should they do?
Uh, Very simple. We have a website, akfi.org. You have my email address. The easiest way is to get close. It's exec director at akfi.org. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So there are multiple ways to contact us, and we'll guide them through the process.
All right, I'll mention all of those details in the show notes, so that people can quickly go there, and if they want to connect to you, they can connect to you.
Thank you very much, Bikram, and I appreciate it. And thank you for all the good questions.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks.
All right, folks, thanks for listening. If you have found this conversation useful, please share this episode with one of your colleagues right now.